Are we conscious this morning of being assembled in heaven on earth? We are aware of this to the extent that our love is offered freely, openly, and fully to the Supreme One in heaven. We rightly have a sense of reverence, humility, and awe that we may share His radiant love in the expression of the Word in heaven. His Word is truth. Truth is the design of the controlled vibratory mode of love. This vibratory mode, in its design, is of great variety. As we share the speaking of this word, the law is fulfilled in heaven. Usually we have thought of the law as operating between heaven and earth. It does operate between heaven and earth. But we should be in position to see the reality of its operation in heaven. Thinking of it from the standpoint of heaven and earth, we recall the wording of the first great commandment. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all the available earthly facilities. So here is responsive love being raised out of the earth toward the radiant love which is present in the heaven. As long as the fulfillment of the law is merely looked at in this fashion, there is a sense of separation. The true state of man is impossible as long as that separation exists. However, obviously, this is the starting point available to all people. It was described in terms of the factual radiation of God's love and response thereto in the earthly sense, inducing attraction and finally union, which makes possible unified radiation. The unified radiation occurs from heaven. Here is the restoration of man to his true position in heaven. You may recall the story of creation, which describes what occurred in earthly terms during the first 6 days. On the 6th day, amongst other things, it is said that man was created. But then a little later, that he was formed of the dust of the ground. This, I think, is looked upon as a flashback to the 6th day. But actually man was created in the heaven. We are aware that this is the proper sequence. The heaven comes first, we say. And so man in the heaven came first. The vibratory mode for man was established in the heaven. This vibratory mode was of considerable variety. We are aware of that now in the earth. We have a physical form of a very intricate and marvelous nature, composed of what we call physical substance. But there is also the vibratory mode beyond that again, which allows for the experience of consciousness in that physical form. There are various vibratory modes of truth which permit the various levels of mental and emotional capacity to be present. There are sundry experiments which human beings may carry out utilizing vibratory modes of sound, perhaps, to cause various substances to take particular forms. According to the substance which is being acted upon, the form will appear. The substance is raised up into the form. This is rather a coarse example of what actually occurs from the standpoint of the radiation of the vibratory modes that are established in the heaven. Substance stands up in various forms. As long as that vibration is present. Actually, there is always vibration present. The earth itself gives evidence of this. It stands up in the form of a globe. Of course, there is more to the earth than solid substance. We are quite aware that there is a good deal of liquid substance around, as well as gaseous substance. Here are three particular evidences of radiated vibratory modes. Substance stands up in these modes, or because of the vibration. This presumably happens regardless of whether human beings are present on earth or not. All that is to be made manifest in form, in the earthly sense, originates in the heaven on the basis of the Word, the truth. The design of controlled vibratory modes for the manifestation of love. Love is the power. Love determines the vibratory modes through the truth. If there is no interference, then the substance which is acted upon by these vibrations stands up in forms according to the design established in the vibratory modes. In a general sense, this occurs cosmologically, regardless of man. But man is designed to provide a focus for specific vibratory modes, so that substance might stand up in these designs of form. As long as man's dwelling place is heaven, so that he shares the expression of God's love in the fulfillment of the commandment. It isn't really a commandment in heaven. It is the state of affairs in heaven. Nobody has to be commanded to love. It is a natural state of affairs. But there is the working of the law in heaven. There is the positive and negative aspect which makes the working of the law possible. There is radiation and response in heaven. There is male and female in heaven. But the total heavenly state is certainly the positive aspect of the working of the law as it relates to the whole of heaven and earth. And the earth is the negative aspect. But then again, in the negative aspect, the positive and the negative are in operation. There is response and radiation in the earthly sense. There is male and female. The point of origination for man, however, is in the heaven. The restoration may be said to be the return of man to a conscious awareness of his positioning in the heaven. Presently, his conscious awareness convinces him that his positioning is in the earth. We know why that is so, because there has been a reversal of polarity. So that the earth has become the controlling element in the experience of human beings. Because of this, the consciousness of being in heaven is lost. And the consciousness of being in the earth is virtually all that remains. I can speak of these things to you because my words are confirmed in your own experience. Now, I would emphasize this matter of experience. I can speak the words to you because they confirm your theory. But that has no value except possibly as a sort of kindergarten beginning. Experience is an important matter. As long as we operate on the foundation of experience in the heavenly sense, we are secure. If we try to operate merely from the standpoint of theory, we find ourselves to be very unstable. So I have suggested this morning that we are assembled in heaven in experience, not merely in theory. I'm sure all could wisely nod their heads that we are assembled in heaven in theory. But how many are in position to confirm the fact in experience? I trust that all of you are, in a certain measure at least. That I'm not standing here theorizing with you. You may find the confirmation as to the truth that is being expressed in your experience. Many years I have been under the necessity of theorizing with you, because the matter of theory was predominant in your own consciousness. The experience was presumably minimal to start with. But I trust over the years that the percentage of experience has been gaining on the reducing percentage of theory. So that at some point there might be a crossover so that experience would become dominant and theory fading. I wouldn't judge in the matter as to the collective percentage that is involved this morning, but our time together only has some real purpose to the extent that we are sharing experience. The experience of being in heaven together. It is natural in the heaven to have a sense of humility, reverence, and awe, because there is one present in the heaven who is supreme to us. All our love is offered to him because we are in heaven. Not because we are somehow merely in the earth and scrambling up to heaven by offering some sort of earthly love to an imaginary figure. It is no longer merely imagination to us, because we have a certain experience of the working of the law in heaven. This might be described as angel-to-angel experience. The angel-to-angel experience comes when earthly compulsions have receded into the background. They are certainly no longer dominant. They may be present, but they are incidental. When we gather in the chapel in the earthly sense, on a Sunday morning, for instance, the invitation is to assemble in heaven. We have a convenient earthly place to accommodate us while we participate in this experience. And we are aware of the working of the law in the heavenly sense. Here is the origination of all the essential vibratory modes that are needed to allow the various levels of substance in the earthly sense to stand up, revealing the forms that are so established. This requires that we administer the creative cycle without changing it, without imposing upon it any human views or opinions as to what should be appearing. We have noted before that there is always the necessity of moving out of one state into another state, and there is consequently a period of transition. When the experience is neither one thing nor the other quite. During this interim, while the true experience was becoming more vivid, there seemed to be the necessity for a certain amount of manipulation. It seemed as though safety and security required a certain amount of manipulation of external events. This only seems to be so because there is as yet inadequate experience of administering the creative cycle, which allows for these vibratory modes to be purely expressed into the realm of available substance. This requires a pure heart, of course. And most of you, I'm sure, a little unsure as to the extent of your own purity of heart. This is reasonable, because the heart hasn't been all that pure. The amount of impurity that was present has inhibited trust in the creative cycle, in the operation of these vibratory modes which are already present in the heaven. And so it was felt wise to adjust them a little here and a little there, to make sure that they were going to work out the way one had imagined that they should. And we're still involved in this way of operating. Obviously, we need to become clear of it, so that these vibratory modes established in the expression of love may have, as I put it before, a clear shot into the available substance. That this substance may stand up, consequently, in the forms established by the vibratory modes. We may think of our own physical bodies in this regard. Here's a bunch of the dust of the ground standing up in a form. What made it stand up in that form? Human beings have looked at these things simply from the earthly standpoint and have examined the substance to try to find out why it stands up the way it does. Well, the reason isn't in the earthly substance. So they never find out. They may discover certain mechanisms that are present in the earthly substance and operative in the earthly substance. But why they are present and operative, nobody knows. Everything that is observable in the earthly sense is merely the evidence of the working of particular vibratory modes. And the substance has no choice but to conform with that working. If these vibratory modes had a clear shot into the substance, what appeared in form would be the true design. The true operating design. It isn't now because of the interference of human manipulation based in human desire that forms should be thus and so, regardless of what the vibratory mode would produce. So there has been interference. The interference eventually becomes so complete in human experience that the substance of their own bodies will no longer stand up in the rather restricted and distorted vibratory mode that has been getting through. And eventually the vibration isn't there, and so it collapses. Of course, it's still part of another vibratory mode. The vibratory mode of the mineral kingdom, for instance, may be perhaps included in the vibratory mode of the kingdom of vegetation, and even then in the animal kingdom. No, and once again into the vibratory mode of human bodies. Only those who are capable of being in heaven are capable of administering the creative cycle so that it may cross over into the earth purely according to the design. This emphasizes the reason why, when we assemble here in the chapel, we should be assembled in heaven. If we're not assembled in heaven, we're not of any great value to allow the transformation to occur in the forms which substance occupies on earth. Now we may see this occurs in the general sense throughout the whole of the cosmos. There are multitudes of forms containing substance, all consequent upon the vibratory modes that have been established in the heaven. But a particular expression of vibratory modes was needful on Earth. At the moment it would be unwise to try to figure out why it was needful. We can see certain elements involved. We should see them quite clearly if we're in heaven. Something is to be accomplished, obviously. The creation is not present for no reason. Something is to be achieved. In order for that achievement to be possible, there was the operational design of substance in form. To be present. This substance in form is produced by the vibratory modes in the heaven. This design is established there. It springs out of the radiation of love. That radiation of love is modified into these various vibratory modes so as to allow for what should appear in form on Earth to do so. Well, that's one thing. Here we have the facility available, operational, but for what? So clearly then there is something else involved here that goes beyond the mere production of operable forms or operating forms. There's no sense to having a bunch of operating forms on the face of the earth with no purpose to them. Whatever the purpose is, it properly comes to focus in whatever man is. Man, polarized in the earth, knows nothing of this. He may sense that there should be a purpose, and so he tries to make a purpose, devising it according to his own desires. This has been going on for a long time. It's become a habit. Habit so strong that no other possibility is usually seen. We are aware of the truth in this regard. The heavenly truth, the fact of the vibratory modes which may allow for the production of the essential form. The form is a whole, but with immense detail. And all this put together for a purpose. Now, the production of this form, according to the true vibratory modes, relates to the subconscious levels of human experience, the subconscious levels of man, the operating facility for the achievement of what that facility is there to achieve. That aspect of it relates to the conscious aspect of mind. A car is an operating instrument which may be started by somebody so that it is known as potentially operable at least, but it requires a driver to be operated. We see the same principle present with respect to man and his facilities of action. The physical form with mind and heart present provide the facility of action. But what should the action be? Well, first of all, something needs to be transformed in the facility to make it really operable, to make it so that it is responsive to the driver. One can put a car in gear, I suppose, and set it off down the road with nobody at the wheel. That is courting disaster insofar as the car is concerned. If the person who should be at the wheel isn't at the wheel, there's no disaster beyond the car. So also in man. And we do not know man except we abide in heaven. Now, we have the opportunity of paying attention to heavenly things, to the nature of the true design, the real vibratory modes that are present during an hour such as this, so that there may be an increased feel for it, an increased awareness in experience, which may continue to abide with us when we are not all present in a setting such as this. Because it is in the daily operation of our physical forms, minds, and hearts that the creative cycle is administered. There are two elements here. One is the restoration of the instrument of action to the true design, which comes because there is a correct administration of the creative cycle so as to clear the way for the vibrational modes without distortion. That is what brings healing. But there's no purpose to healing unless at the same time there is someone present who can allow these vibrational modes to permit the achievement of what the instrument is present for. The vibrational modes of restoration for the instrument, which ultimately is mankind, is primarily a subconscious operation. The vibrational mode for the operation of that instrument is a conscious operation. We can trust the vibrational modes that are available to recreate and restore mankind. We can also trust what becomes apparent consciously as this restoration proceeds. Obviously, we cannot accomplish the purpose for the presence of man until man is present. So the restoration of the presence of man is fundamentally the first order of business. And that is a subconscious operation. To the extent that it occurs, to that extent, then something can be done consciously to achieve what is needful by reason of the presence of man. As long as man isn't present, nothing can be done by reason of the presence of man. That should be obvious enough. So there is a sensing in this hour of being present in heaven, where such matters may be comprehensible, and where we may associate ourselves with the creative cycle already at work, and with the vibrational modes already established. We may be absolutely sure that as these vibrational modes are allowed to emerge by reason of our presence, that substance will stand up in the forms that are necessary. The forms are living forms, so they change. There is, in this sense, an observation possible of true evolution. Something is unfolding, as we say. It isn't static. We don't just stand at the gate administering the creative cycle. Substance stands up in crystallized forms. It doesn't. It stands up in living forms. And who can tell what the nature of that living form should be at any particular moment in the unfoldment of the creative cycle? We let it be what it needs to be. And as the administrators of the creative cycle, have increasingly pure minds and hearts through which to operate, the nature of that creative cycle becomes more and more consciously evident. We already have some conscious awareness of the nature of it. We do not perhaps yet see adequately as to what is really happening in this regard in our own immediate worlds and in the larger world which encompasses the whole earth. But the happening is there, and as there are those who are trustworthy in heaven, there is the fulfillment of the words, "Behold, I come quickly." I come quickly. Can you speak that word for yourself, truly?
It is a delight to speak that word this morning and to abide with you in heaven in this place, recognizing that we are rightly here to administer the creative cycle. We don't originate the program. We don't originate the design. And as we let our own past human dreams and manipulations of those dreams pass away, then we are increasingly in position to let the fulfillment of the design take intelligible form through us on earth. What an easy and delightful process this really is, as we come clear of the self-centered state and abide in heaven.
We participate in creation. It is such participation in creative expression that brings happiness. Happiness is not something to be sought after, but something which is naturally known in creative expression.